Good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of philosophy after gap of 2 days, and we're discussing regarding the chapter number 11 from Kant's philosophy, the role of vital force in the state of health, in the state of disease, and in the state of cure. And he's trying to explain again the same concept. He wants to explain you as where exactly the disease lies, and that's what the thought of Han, Hahnemann was there, and same thing the Kent has stressed that thing that disease never lies peripherally, disease never comes from outside, disease comes or originates inside and expresses externally in the form of signs and symptoms. And many times this thought again and again he has implanted in the student's mind. So by every aspect he's trying to explain that whatever maybe the complaints are there, those complaints are always because of the um, disturbance of the vital force, and that reflects externally in the form of signs and symptoms. So disease is always invisible. Expression of disease is visible in the form of signs and symptoms. The original disease always lies at the dynamic level. So that's what we have discussed up till now, and we are discussing regarding last point where he has given one example of sulfur. He has given sulfur gradually increased in that potent patient, and he explained over there that there is always used to happen a medicinal homeopathic aggravation. And whenever the disease comes again in the external level, the patient used to come and fight with the doctor. But every time his internal condition used to recover because of that. And he has explained it in that specific aphorism, in that specific paragraph, that ultimately he gave himself for 55 m, and he again made the same thing that you rascal, you gave me first medicine again, I don't want that stuff. So this is what many times happens, that I'm treating case of cancer at present, having, I think I have shared it with you, that he was having the mouth cancer, buccal cavity cancer with CA tongue, and the history was that 3 years back he had eczema all over the body, and which was suppressed with the help of allopathic treatment. He has seen by many skin specialists, ultimately who has given the allopathic medicines internally steroids as well as external steroids. Ultimately he recovered from that and landed into the cancer. So when I started the case, I told him that it will going to happen. And if it comes, if you don't try any allopathic medicine, and then only I will try to save you. He agreed, and then we have started medicine. And within a month or 1.5 months, whole eczema reappeared. And he is asking me that, doctor, please cure this. I am getting too much irritation, itching, I cannot sleep and everything, and it troubles me a lot. I said, whether you want your life or whether you want this, think over it, because I know that this will going to come and this will remain for some time. It will not disappear so fast, because it is the original disease with which the next secondary symptoms have been developed. So, if this state comes in the patient after treating, giving a right remedy, then you have to wait. And here you have to keep the patience, and your patient has to keep the patience. Because these things will not going to meet immediately. It takes little bit time to recover completely. And same thing has happened with that case where Kent has shared that. So what he says further, when you have learned what your good thing to say to the patient. Do not be alarmed or astonished when such and such things happen. Otherwise, they will get alarmed and go off and perhaps get another doctor. The 55 m of sulfur relieved that patient in a couple of doses.
Voice is very low, sir. Voice is very low.
Hello, just a minute. Hello, hello. Hello. Hello.
अजूनही कमीच येतोय.
Just I'm checking. Hello. Is it clear
आता
now?
ठीक आहे. हो आता ठीक आहे.
Okay. What he was saying, the 55 m of sulfur relieved that patient in a couple of doses far apart and then ceased to relieve him anymore. Next, he received the CM, which worked just as the other potencies had done, and finally he got to the MM, which acted just like the CM. And from the potency, he went on being restored to the health. When you see these things, you have confirmation in them of the doctrines of law. Experience does not lead to these things, but principles, whether which thereafter are confirmed by experience. When a patient has been carried through the series of potencies, he will often remain unaffected by that remedy in lower realm of potency and in the crude unless he is overwhelmingly dosed by it, and then he will be poisoned. So this is what we have to face when we are treating chronic disorders, basically the pathology. So whenever we treat the pathologies, and those are the results of the suppressed skin eruptions in the past, then definitely that will going to come. And if it is not so long disturbed, then it can be easily managed. But if it has been suppressed long time, then it takes long time to recover. And every time, whenever you give a internal remedy for his original disease, then every time these skin manifestations will going to come and they will irritate the person. But these things you have to bear in mind. You have to explain to the patient that this is the best because of which the new disease has been aroused. So if you are able to tell it at the start, then the problem never arises. My suggestion is always there. When I deal with the cancers, I always tell them if any eczema comes, if any skin manifestation comes, if anything herpes zoster comes, because I'm getting this herpes zoster again and again whenever I'm treating the cancer. So if it comes, please do not take any medicine. Call me immediately. And this helped me a lot, because of which the person immediately contacts you, and you have to tackle that gradually, keeping the patience in the patient so that you can control all those internal pathology. And this gets cured with the help of proper homeopathic remedy. So he has given very good example how to treat and how to handle such types of cases. And many times you have to go ahead. When I am treating the pathology, I starts with low, but gradually I also reaches to the CM potency. I used to complete it, because unless and until you reach to that dynamic sphere, it is not possible to cure that patient completely. And I have followed the Kent in this specific way of prescribing, that if I am sure about the same remedy, I have to go on increasing the potency unless and until the complete cure has been achieved. So same he has mentioned over there regarding it. And last point, which he explained, the third proposition in this paragraph is that medicines will not act curatively or in a way to turn the body into order or and turn off disease unless potentized to correspond to the degrees in which the man is sick. So this is true. At what level the man is made sick at the dynamic level, that you have to judge, and that you have to judge on the basis of judging the patient's susceptibility. And susceptibility is based upon many factors, on the basis of which you can catch that patient might require low potency, a medium potency, a high potency. So you have to think. Here the question of judgment comes. If you are, if you know all those things, how to judge the susceptibility, then you can catch a perfect potency. And then you should, if your potency matches that, then you'll get a very early recovery in all those cases. Such as are the sick in a middle plane, are sick from the plane to the outermost. Such as are the sick in the interior planes, are sick throughout the outermost. When the disorder is in very depth of the physical nature, that it is in the form of chronic disease. That is all there is of him is sick, and of such there is no tendency to recovery, but continued progress. Such is the order of Sora, syphilis, and psychosis. So he is explaining you exactly where the disease is. If it is at superficial plane, well and good. But if it is deep-seated, either in the form of psoric miasm or psychotic miasm or syphilitic miasm, then itself it will not going to settle itself. Here you have to treat it according to the miasm. If it is psoric, anti-psoric. If it is psychotic, antipsychotic. If it is syphilitic, it's antisyphilitic. If it is mixed miasmatic, according to the mixed miasmatic, you have to choose the remedy. But unless and until you give the remedy, that will not going to settle. And that remedy, which has that depth and which reaches to that specific plane, then and then patient gets cured. In fact, this is the big, very important question one should think about and one should know. This is too important because what happens? Many people claims that they have cured cancer with belladonna. How can it be? Many patients, many doctors claim that they have given Naxomica and patient's cancer is cured. How can it be? The remedy doesn't have that depth. Remedy doesn't goes inside at the root level. How can it cure? It can't. Unless and until you find it out a remedy which has that depth, which reaches to that place, it is not possible to get cured. So one must understand the depth of remedy, and that's why the Hahnemann have discovered regarding the miasm. So understanding the miasm is one of the important things when you deal with the chronic cases, and that's what the Kent has wants to highlight you. And the last paragraph of this chapter, which he explains, the nutritive plane is entirely in the outermost, that is in the tissue. Assimilation goes on in the tissue. It is simply in the realm of tissues and ultimates that crude drugs operate. They can only disturb ultimates, and the inharmonious condition is the inharmony of ultimates and the outermost plane. Of course, if the outermost of the physical is disturbed, the whole economy suffers, and the body ceases to furnish good instrument to be operated upon by the powers within. But a true disease, with periods of prodrome, progress, and decline, or a continuance, cannot be implanted upon the economy except it be by dynamical cause. And hence, necessarily, man cannot be cured except by the drugs, attenuated until they have become similar to the nature and quality of disease cause. Disease cause and disease curing drug must be similar in nature, unlike causes would not produce like effects. So he is giving you example that food is the most superficial entity where the material goes inside your body. That material itself is, if it is responsible to produce disease, that disease is superficial. And that's why if a person who eats lot of spicy food and next day he gets vomiting or gastritis or diarrhea, that is a disease which we call by name of indisposition. It is a superficial disease. Here the cause is not dynamic. And when the cause is not dynamic one, Hahnemann says it produces peripheral diseases, and those diseases generally tackled by the just altering the diet, and that is sufficient unless and until it is of a very severe character. But those diseases which are caused because of dynamical influence definitely affects the human life. And in such types of cases, if it is acute, there is a period of prodrome, period of progress, and followed by the period of decline. If it is chronic, there is a period of progress and period of prodrome, and there is a period of progress. There is no period of decline. But both diseases, whether it might be acute or whether it might be a chronic, everywhere you require only one thing: you require internal homeopathic dynamic medicine. External medicine or a material medicine cannot cure disorders which are in dynamic plane. And last is we can arrive at the similar causes by studying the effects that are similar. When we examine into the case and find certain group of symptoms and in the effects produced by certain drugs, we like symptoms, we have right to presume that the quality and nature in both is similar. The causes must be similar if the effects are similar in the nature and quality. When physician goes to the bedside, if he asks himself, do I know a remedy that has produced upon the healthy man symptoms like this? He must pass judgment upon the symptom. He must be an artist in application and capable of discerning the finer shades of the difference and similarity. See how nicely the Kent has elaborated over there, how you should approach the patient. What he says, you go to the patient at bedside, just find it out what symptoms the patient presents. Find it out the totality and think whether there is any remedy which matches to the patient's totality. This is too important. You catch that. Then what he says, you get a group of remedies, 2, 3 remedies in your mind, or after repertorization, you get a group of 3, 4 remedies. Then he says, you must find it out a fine differentiation between these remedies. This is too important. So the way you select your dresses when you reach to the cloth store, in the similar manner, what do? You see the patterns, you see the colors, you should see the fashions, everything. The same thing you have to apply over there. Whole mind you have to find it out. Finer shades to match the simillimum. And if you are able to judge that properly, then your work is done. Then that remedy will work at that specific center. That will work at that dynamic plane. And that will definitely cure the patient completely. So the remedy should have that depth, remedy should reach to that level, dynamic level, and remedy should be a dynamic one. Then cure happen. So role of vital force in the process of cure works only when you provide a simillimum and which is also works at the dynamic plane. Then it is possible to get an ideal cure with the patient. Otherwise, it is not possible. So here completes the chapter number 11. Tomorrow we'll start with the chapter number 12, sorry. The removal of the totality of the symptoms means removal of the disease. That is related with the aphorism number 9. So the concept which where many peoples have not understood, or many allopaths they never understood. He tried to explain it detail over there. Caesar effectus, Caesar causa. These words were written by James Cross in his introduction related with this aphorism. You remove the effects, you can remove the cause of the disease. And this is what we have to learn in next lecture. So we have learned regarding the role of vital force in the state of health, state of disease, and state of cure. And this concept, if it is clear in your mind, it's very easy to treat that. So that's all for today. If any query is there, we have a chat. Otherwise, we'll conclude. And today evening, we're going to learn a very important remedy in our practice because without that, we cannot do the practice, and that is the Nakswamika. So at 8:30, be there with the Nakswamika, and we're going to learn all shades of Nakswamika. It is a very big polycrest and very useful polycrest in our practice. So any queries, questions are there, we can have a chat. So we'll meet at 8:30. Thank you being there, and we'll meet tomorrow also.